All right, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to go over the YouTube thumbnail project and then actually do the project. So we're going to design this thumbnail and let's do it right now. So the first thing I want to do is I want to click on File, Open, and we're going to go to the YouTube thumbnail project number 2. We're going to click on this and it's going to pop open the background image that we use for this thumbnail. So I'm going to hit Control A, Control C, and then also Control W, and then Control V to paste that in. And what we're going to do is we're going to call this background image. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is disable this layer for a second, and we're going to build out this right here, the transparent background. So let's call this transparent background. And what I want to do is hit the letter M for the marquee tool, and then we're going to drag this out and match it closely up, and then just click right here so we can get to the default colors, black and white, and then we're going to hit G, which will take you to the gradient tool, and we're going to click on that and grab the paint bucket, and I'm going to click right here and I'll fill it up, hit Control D and then Control T so that we can bring this down. Click here to not maintain the aspect ratio so you have more flexibility as to what you can do with the rectangle that we created here. And what I want to do is I want to line this up on the edges. Okay, and I'm going to hit Enter. And now what we're going to do is we're going to mess with the opacity. So what I want to do is go to about 50% and see how that looks. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off for a second. Let's turn off the source, turn on the background image, and then turn on the transparent background. And I would say that's pretty darn close, okay? Pretty close to what was there. When they're not on top of each other, it looks really good. So I'd say that's very good, and that's a good starting point. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the blue squares, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one blue square. So let's use the eyedropper. Hit the letter I and then the marquee tool, and we're going to draw out this square, or this rectangle I should say, and then hit the letter G for the paint bucket. And now we're going to hold Alt and we're going to drag this around the images and then resize them to what they're actually sized so that we can build out this thumbnail. And let's see, so I'm going to go with that. Go with this one right here, and then this one over here. Okay, and then we'll grab this one right here, and I'll shrink that down a little bit. And that's another reason why you want to turn the aspect ratio off, because what it will do is it will automatically adjust the aspect ratio for you, which is good in some cases, but for this project, we don't want the aspect ratio messing with our project or the content that we're creating. So put that right there. And all you're going to do is you're going to hold Alt to drag these over. And then this one right here. Okay. Now, here's the secret. So I'm going to hold Shift and I'm going to click. Before I hold Shift, I'm going to click on the blue squares, copy 10, and I'm going to hold Shift and click on blue squares, right click, and we're going to merge the layers together. Okay, now when I turn this off, we're back to where we could see before. All right, so now all we need to do is type in learn. And so what I'll do is I'll hit the letter X, which will switch this from the foreground to the background color. Okay, so if you hit the letter X, this is a keyboard shortcut, it'll switch between the background and the foreground. So the foreground is here and the background is here. So we want white to be the foreground. Okay, so that's the foreground right there. So I'm going to hit the letter T, and we're going to type in all caps, learn. Okay, I'll hit enter, and then we'll drag this down. And what I want to do is I want to shrink this down to the as close to size as we can to what the actual thumbnail is. Okay, it's not going to be exactly the same because of the font. So as long as it's somewhat close, that's fine. And then we'll drag this down, and we're going to go for 72 for Photoshop. And then I'll do 2020 below. And I'm going to tab that in a few times. Okay, and then let's make this 100 and see if that does the trick. Okay, so now I'm going to bring this up, and that's pretty close. Let's do 125 and see if that does it. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to say that that's pretty darn close. So I'm going to turn the source off and turn on all the other layers that we have. I'll hit T and then space this in. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to bring this over so that it's inside of this transparent background with the opacity at 50%. Now what we're going to do is we're going to merge this together. Okay, so I'm going to select on the background image, hold shift and click on Photoshop 2020, right click on it, and we're going to merge if it lets me. But before we do that, I want to duplicate these layers. Okay, I'm going to hit OK, and we'll call this thumbnail. So what I did is I clicked on the folder, and then I'm going to call this thumbnail. Okay, and then I'm going to turn this off. And now we're going to merge this. So merge layers. Okay, turn that off, turn this one on, and then we can edit here, right? So we'll call this thumbnail layers. So what I recommend doing when you're using Photoshop is always have layers. If you want to merge, just make duplicate the layers first and put it in a folder like this, or a group. They call it a group now. It's always been called a group. Make a group with the layers inside of it, and then turn off the layer, and then keep the flattened image there, and then save that as the JPEG. All right, let's hit Control S to save. And there you go. So that's how you create a YouTube thumbnail. Now, there wasn't a lot of design theory in this project. It was more of, this is what we're building, this is what I want you to do. But in the next section, when we get into the print media, we're actually going to talk more about graphic design theory and why you want to design something a certain way. So if you feel like you missed out in this one, that's fine. I'll see you in the next video where we'll go over the print projects. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you there.